So the big idea in the beginning of Yoga Sutras is Patanjali's definition of yoga, which I'm sure most of us have heard at some point or another. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. So yoga is the stilling of all thought modifications or fluctuations, which is, by definition, not something that we can conveniently wrap our head around. Right? Like, what would it be like? Well, think about that. And, in the process of thinking, that's not it. Right? So yoga is the stilling of all thoughts. And the key word in there is nirodha, which has a number of translations. It means like arresting, stopping, kind of like stilling in that it implies it's a process as opposed to like a hard stop. And some regard this as the primary means of realizing yoga. If yoga is what happens when your mind stops, what's the vehicle? What's the thing that we do, so to speak, to accomplish that or uphold that? Well, just still the mind or stop the mind, which in all likelihood, and I know as a practitioner myself that you have to give me a little bit more to work with, a little bit more to go off of. It didn't happen initially in the first place. He presents a number of important sutras from there. And then he takes you up to 1.12, where he outlines what's regarded as the first official vehicle for going about this stilling of mind. So maybe it just wasn't a one and done nirodha kind of process. Give me a little more to work with here. There's a two-limb system, like two primary reference points. How do you go about it? Abhyasa, vairagyam, tan, nirodha. There's that word again, nirodha. So the way to go about nirodha is abhyasa and vairagyam. What are those two words? So abhyasa, this is probably the one that we can relate to the most. Who knows what abhyasa means? What does it mean? It means practice. It means work at it. Have some dedicated methodology, some yogic methodology that you return to on a regular basis. And in Patanjali's words, for a long and uninterrupted time, that cultivates yoga, right? And in the context of Yoga Sutras, more than likely, he was referring to meditation reliably. You can develop meditative awareness in asana, and there's this other thing called seated practice meditation. So number one, abhyasa. And number two, vairagyam. Does anyone know what that one means? Welcome. Hey, I see you, Landa. Yeah. Yeah, dispassion or surrender. Not a popular word in the English vernacular. I mean, I think our culture is generally oriented towards get rid of the dis part, like just go with the passion, right? Passionate, enthusiastic pursuit is more at the center of our cultural norms or values. And for understandable reasons, right? Like it helps give the sense of being alive when we have more sort of invested emotion in how we feel, right? And what this word literally means, if you take it a part of it. So raga means like to color, and V means without. So without coloring, without coloring. Like if I had 4 different glasses here, and this one was the yellow tinted one, and now I put this on, and all the world appeared yellow. Of course, this is a yellow existence, my friends. All of life is yellow. And then I put that one down, and then I pick this one up, and these ones are red, and everything looks red, right? And then I come down, and this one's kaleidoscope, and everything looks like that. And I go on and like read, like, where's the reality in this, right? So one way that we can relate to this principle of vairagya is that our perception is clear without distortion. And in so, there's less attachment to whether or not events appear favorable or unfavorable. It's more like, this is the reality. This is the phenomenon of what's occurring in this moment. I feel sad. I wanted things to go this way, but instead they went that way, right? And there's a certain sober acceptance for the life circumstance. There's a great one of my, at least in the version that I read, lines from Ramayana, where Rama was the heir apparent to the kingdom of Ayodhya. And it's the eve of his coronation. And the king's other wife, owed a few favors. The king owed a few favors to one of his wives, Kaikeyi. And it's the eve of Ram's coronation, the eldest son, he's going to inherit the kingdom. And Kaikeyi says, wait just a minute. Remember those 2 boons that you promised me on the battlefield years back when I saved your life? I'm ready to collect. Boon number 1, Ram is banished to the forest for 14 years. 14, it's a long time. 14 years. And then, boon number 2, my biological son, Bharat, will now be the king. What do you think of that? And Dasharatha, I believe his name is crushed. He's crushed, wilts to the ground. But the sort of nobility of one's word is like paramount, particularly if you're a king in ancient India, apparently, according to these stories. And says, all right, please someone go send for Ram. Ram rolls up, full of vairagya, right? Full of like the prototypical saint of vairagya. Dad gives him the news. He says, okay, like that. There's a few other people in the entourage that come on, namely his wife and his brother Lakshman, and they're on board with this whole exile mission for 14 years. Here's the part I was getting to. So they're rolling out of the palace gate, like the threshold place. The threshold place. And the throngs of citizens are all gathered around and, no, stop the chariot, Ram, this is so unjust. How could this be? You must fight back. They're full of raga, right? They're not feeling a lot of vairagya in this instance. They're getting ready to throw themselves under the wheels of the chariot. And Ram says, stop. Stop. Listen. You are not angry with Kaikeyi. You are not angry with the king. You're not even angry that I won't be the king. But you're disappointed that life did not turn out the way you thought it would. And here we are, all in a mess. My father made an agreement. It's my duty to uphold this agreement. My wife, Sita, has chose to join me. That's her decision. Respect our choices. And everything kind of sobers up in that moment, and they come rolling off in the forest, and then the big adventure begins and so forth, and you learn all these virtues of Ram and everything along the way. Okay. So abhyasa vairagyam tan nirotana. The means of going about the stilling of the mind is twofold. One, regular practice, which we'll do momentarily, and two, with an eye towards things like steadiness, presence. And number two, just letting things be, letting things go, acceptance, non-attachment.